Ladies and gentlemen, look at this delicious looking pepper soup. I want to teach you how to make this fantastic recipe, and you're going to have a new favorite for your recipe list. Howdy folks, this is Texas Cooking Today. Guess what? You found one of my tutorials. Now the tutorial versions are a little bit longer, but they've got a lot of information in them, okay? If you're not interested in saturated information recipe videos, you might check out the previous episode. That's just the recipe. It's a lot shorter than this one. But this, if you had any questions, we'll definitely answer all of them. Now let's get in the kitchen and enjoy it. Oh, by the way, check this out behind me. This is Texas Cattle Drive, and this is in downtown Dallas. It's a beautiful bronze sculpture. You need to come and see it. Today we have a whole stack of delicious goodies to cook up this recipe with. This is a fabulous pepper soup, and I'm looking forward to making it for you. Today I'm going to be making a pepper soup. The other day I was making some videos on chilies. You know, what are the names of chilies, the heat profiles, basically doing a good going over on different kinds of chilies and giving some ideas of what to do with them and how to handle them, and the wonderful things that you can do with chilies. And it dawned on me that, you know, while I do a lot of videos on different dishes that contain a lot of chilies, I haven't ever done one that was a non-spicy dish, totally. So I wanted to do that this time. This soup is not spicy at all, but it is chock full of chili pepper flavor. You're going to love it. We're going to be using the bell pepper, which has absolutely no heat at all. And it is wonderful as far as the different colors that you can get with it, and the intense flavor that it has comes across really well. Now, when I decided to come up with this recipe, I knew I wanted it to be special in many different ways. And one of the things that I really dislike about a soup that has chilies in it, when you're eating that soup, and this goes also for a soup that has tomatoes in it, or a stew with tomatoes in it. You're eating and suddenly you're pulling a skin from between your teeth. And it's a tomato skin or a chili pepper skin or whatever. Any of those thin skin items, it's not pleasant to have that in the food. So today we're going to remove that skin from these beautiful chilies, and we're going to get them cooked up in a special way. After that, I'm going to be building a soup. And the way we flavor this soup, you'll be surprised. There's some delicious, good flavor in it. And when you try it, I think you've got a new one for your recipe list, okay? So let's get busy taking that skin off. It's not that hard. Before we get busy cooking off the skin on these chilies, I wanted to talk about everything that we have. And if you're wondering why I keep calling this bell pepper a chili, well, even though we call it a pepper in the United States, peppers are chilies and chilies are peppers, okay? So I have a tendency to refer to this fruit as a chili most of the time. That's just the way I think. And so please bear with me if the nomenclature is not what you're accustomed to. Now, in addition to these wonderful peppers or chilies, we're going to be using a medium white onion, and I've got some garlic, and I've got here, this is some cornstarch, olive oil. I have some cheese here. Now this is good old cheddar cheese. You can pick any kind of cheese you want for this, but I like using this one. And back here I have some vegetable broth. Now, neat thing about this dish, you can use vegetable broth or chicken broth, whatever you'd like. You can even just use water, but frankly I think the broth really pulls the flavor up on it and makes it wonderful. Folks, as you see, very few and very simple ingredients, but when they're cooked up right, oh, the flavors are fantastic. Folks, when it comes to how to get that skin off, a long time ago I kind of got in the habit of just charring it off. There's different ways of doing this though. I need to mention that. You can do this on a grill, you can do this on a gas stove. You can put these under a broiler. Let's say you have electric stove. Well, use your broiler and set these under it, and when they stop start blistering and popping, you just kind of rotate them a couple of times, then pull them out and throw them in a plastic bag. As they sit in that bag and sweat, that skin will release, and it works like a charm. So that's another way of doing it. So you have a variety of ways of getting the skin off. I find this adds a slight element of charring to it and gives it that roasted or charred chili flavor, which is really good. The meat underneath will be protected, but the skin's going to get charred off, and that it does impart flavor to the meat. If you do this over a stove, directly on the burner works good. Also, you can use a simple propane torch from the hardware store. Works just fine, ladies and gentlemen, and it will burn the skin off of your chilies really easy. The popping sound you hear, that's going to be the skin blistering and snapping. Do not worry, chilies are very tough. They're extremely heat resistant, so you can put them against some very fiery hot heat, and they do well. Get yours charred all the way around, and then we're going to move on to how to process these in a really neat and easy way. Well folks, here they are. We have them all charred now all the way around, and so all I need to do is get this skin off of here. The couple of ways I can do that, I can either just take it and pull it off, you know, like so, in pieces, or I can wash it off. You take your pick on which way you want to do it. If you pull it off this way, you're going to keep more of that charred flavor, and it will be imparted to the soup. Okay, so please remember that one bit. Washing does affect that slightly, and it also washes out some of the oils of the chili that give it a lot of flavor. Frankly, I do the wash method because these things are so robust in flavor. This soup is not going to be lacking anything. And so I like to do that. It gets it out of my way quickly, and it helps me to prepare the chili for the next step. I'm going to show you this neat trick about how to get these ready to slice. Wait till you see it. Now folks, here it is. I've got my little yellow chili. Do I sit and do this through the whole thing? I can, okay? So, and as you see, it's not difficult to just go ahead and shred it off of there without washing. Although, I don't like these little bits in my soup that much, and some of them are going to be in there, but on mine I like it to be a little more clean. So I do a good thorough wash, and then I go ahead and decrown and de-seed the chili as I'm washing it. So let me show you my little trick on this. First, and you'll notice that not all of that skin comes off of there readily. So those are going to be the little black pieces that are going to show up in that soup no matter what you do. And you kind of really can't get around all that easily. Okay, I have my chili to this point where most of the skin is removed and cleaned off. I need to remove that the seeds within it, and this crown right up here. So my method is this: I take my finger and just poke it through the side of the chili, just like this, poke, and then I'll pull down, and that just opens it up, just like a little knife would do. They split open quite easily that way. Now then I go up here, peeling this upward, and I peel it up and away. Now sometimes you're going to run into a membrane on the side. Just push your thumb through that and keep pulling up and away from that crown. And you go all the way around it, and boom, that's the last thing with the seed pod. Now there's some seeds on the inside, and we can wash these out. Now folks, that was simple enough, and this is the easiest way I know to open up a chili to slice it. Looky there. I didn't have to do the fancy cutting as you see people do, where they unroll it and cut the top off of it. I've just done that, and it's processed, ready to be diced. It's that simple. I'm doing all of my chilies this exact same way, and I'm moving on to the next step. As you can see, this is not very difficult. We have our bell peppers all ready to slice. And it's simple enough. Normally, if the skin is on the pepper, you cut it from the inside out. But when they're like this, folks, you can just cut it from the outside in. And it's a little bit easier, I do believe. Now, if you'll notice, what I'm doing is cutting anywhere from 3/8 to 1/2 inch wide. That's about a 1/2 inch there. And I want to take those and just make some very simple little dice with them. So the thing of it is you don't have to get crazy with how fancy you're cutting. These are just going to be little squares, little dots in the middle of a beautiful soup. All right? So let's go ahead and do all of this, get these cut up, and get them into a bowl. And after we do that, we're going to be processing our onion, the garlic, and we're ready to start cooking. We're still busy processing those vegetables, so now I need to cut the top off of my onion. Don't cut the root end or it'll weep on you and it'll make you cry, and it's just really unpleasant. Remove any of that thin outer layer. It's generally got dry spots in it, like right there on this one, and it doesn't cook up well, so just go ahead and get that off. There we go. I got that outer paper and the outer layer off of that, and here is the line where my original cut was, and kind of on that line I want to cut from the root straight down through it. And when I'm doing that, make sure you keep the fingers turned under and the thumb behind, folks. There we go. So I have two nice little pieces like this. I'm going to make some cross cuts into that to get the sides cut, basically. And this is a three-way cutting system that's used by a lot of chefs, and it's very common, okay? So sometimes when you're pushing your knife in there, and always remember, fingers together, right on top, never on the sides, on top. Sometimes when you're pushing your knife in, it'll bind up on you, and if it does that suction on that blade from the food itself, just twist the blade slightly like that, and that will relieve it so it'll go on up through there. So now you can see those cuts here and here. I want to make my vertical cuts this way, and when I cut an onion like this, ladies and gentlemen, you get the most perfect dice in the world. And that's the reason chefs do this, is because they get such even dice and they get an even cook from that vegetable because of the even dice. So there's what you get, is all of these nice, smooth, even sized pieces. A little technique is worth its weight in gold, I believe. Now folks, the best way I know to get that paper off of the garlic is just to put it between your thumb and forefinger, grip it firmly, and give it a little twist like this. You're not twisting hard enough to break the meat underneath, but when you hear that crackling sound, that's that paper breaking free. Isn't that neat? And that's all it takes. And once you get used to this little technique, well, you're going to be accustomed to doing it this way. Now, I used really fresh garlic here, and the fresh garlic like this is the hardest to break that free on. There we go. That did it. Once it comes free, it does come free quite easily. So just do yours the same way, and we're going to get on with mincing. I wanted to show you a mincing technique that's quite handy for garlic. And first thing I like to do before I mince, I like to remove that scab, mostly because I just don't really want to see that in my food, okay? When I'm going to be mincing garlic, I don't want to just go to cutting it because the thing has a tendency to roll and bob around. So I want to crush it. It doesn't have to be crushed a lot, just mash it down a bit. And when you're doing that, be careful, make sure the edge is on your knife is face down and away from your hand so you don't hurt yourself. Next thing is, we're going to be cutting this up, and when I do that, I want to have my hand, these fingers on top of the knife with the thumb turned under right here. And the knife is going to be rocking up and down like so. You can do this choked up, just like this on your knife, and it works okay. I like to get a little better action on my knife. That means I have to pull back on the handle some. So when we're doing this, you want to get your knife, and I need to mention this, your knife has to have a blade that is offset from the handle, this little right here. And when you're doing that, that way you can rock it up. So you need to get close enough to the edge to allow good play on the knife. Most of the time it's not going to come off of the board more than about that right there. All right, so Now I'll say this takes a little bit of time to learn, a little bit of time and practice. And believe it or not, I learned this technique watching Jacques Pepin when I was a little boy, okay? So there was a friend of his, which was Julia Childs, and when her show was first being aired, oh yeah, believe it or not, there I was watching. Now if you'll notice, my blade is angled away from my hand a little bit. Ladies and gentlemen, I find that the garlic cuts a little better when I do it that way rather than bringing it straight up. So simply put, I get a better cutting action, better mincing. So once you get used to that, you'll get good action on it too. There we go. Beautifully minced and ready to go down into my dish. I have everything all cut up and prepared. Now, I always like to teach on my videos that you cook using what's called the setup method. I don't want to be busy burning my onion while I'm trying to cut up these or whatever else. I want everything to run smooth when I start adding heat to something, and that means having everything ready to go. Folks, it gives you a couple of extra bowls to clean. Yes, it does. But you know what? That's a small price to pay for the ease and comfort in cooking that this technique provides you. Definitely use this, okay? I'm going to start with my onions, and they're going to have to be cooked first. So I'm just going to put those right down in there. I'm going to add some olive oil, add some heat to the bottom of my pan. There we go. And I want that heat to be about a medium high, okay, to start with. And I'm going to lower it to medium here in just a little bit, but I want to get my onions started up. Now this is, remember, this is sweating your onions, so you want to develop steam in your pot. There we go. These have been cooking, sweating now, for, about 10 minutes. We're getting a little bit of browning on the edges of some of them, but not much, okay folks? It's very light. This is perfect. And if you get some browning, it's not going to hurt anything. That won't hurt the dish at all, so don't get upset about that. Next thing, we want our peppers. Oh yes. And if there was any juice left in there, just go ahead and drop it down in with. Ladies and gentlemen, this looks too good right here. I think you need a nice close-up of this. Isn't that beautiful? So what I want to do here is go ahead, get the rest of this in here. Before I stir this, I want to hit it with about 1/2 of a teaspoon of salt, all right? It doesn't need a whole lot, and that's because the broth has a little bit of sodium, and also so does my cheese. It's got some sodium in it also. You can leave that out if you want, but I think it really enhances vegetables when you cook them with a little bit of sodium. Brings out flavor. Here we go. I've given this another 10 minutes. It has cooked nicely. The colors in here, folks, these colors are beautiful. So we're going to have a soup that's just chock full of beautiful color and flavor. This has just set and married, and it's coming out beautiful. We have a beautiful soup coming together, folks. Absolutely beautiful. Now I need to raise my temperature. I'm going to bring this to a boil. As soon as it breaks boil, I'll cover it. I'm going to lower the temperature back down again to a simmer. That means a low heat, low flame, and then let it sit there and simmer covered for 10 minutes, okay? So it's simple, you know, you had 10 minutes on the onion, 10 minutes on the onion and the pepper, and now 10 minutes on the onion and the pepper in the broth, okay? And once that's done, the soup is essentially made, with the exception of thickening it and then flavoring it with our cheese. Folks, I've just uncovered this and it's coming down from that simmer. I am going to go ahead and take my cornstarch, I'm going to mix it in with my water. Now I just pour this on in. When you first put your cornstarch in the water, it kind of acts funky. It sets to the bottom. It acts like it doesn't want to mix. But if you just kind of keep pushing against it and working it, ladies and gentlemen, it will mix, okay? And it doesn't take it very long. You just start moving it a little bit, and then suddenly, the next thing you know, your cornstarch is mixed in, and it didn't take long. And that's the reason I went ahead and showed this to you, is to show you how quickly that happens. And that's it right there. I'm getting what's knocked up on the sides. There it is, it's fully dissolved. Once I have that cornstarch dissolved in water, I want to go ahead, while stirring this, gently pour this in. And the reason you do that is you will end up with two different viscosities of liquid if you don't put it in that way. And I'm bringing up the heat a little bit, about a medium high, so I can bring this up to a boil. There we go. And I put in just a little over half of what I had there, which was about a quarter of a cup. And what you want to do is just kind of add this gently, bring it up in temperature, look at how thick it gets, and if you want it a little thicker, add the rest. In a little bit, that's what we'll be doing. It's come to a boil. Now when this comes to a boil, it's basically thickened as much as it's going to thicken when it is cornstarch. So you see it's a bit thin here. I'm going to add the rest. Now I've turned my heat off. Look what I have, this beautifully thickened liquid. I want to give this just a moment to calm down, and then we're going to work the cheese in next. And that's all we have to do. After that, our soup is ready to enjoy. We're going to add our cheese now. And all I have to do is just gently stir this as I keep adding my cheese in. The beautiful thing about this, the cornstarch, once it's in this liquid, allows this cheese to emulsify beautifully. And it kind of brings the whole thing together. So I'm gently stirring. As you see, it's still a little bit of cheese that's not quite fully melted off. So I'm going to finish stirring until it looks smooth and creamy. There is no flame under at this point. We're just using residual heat. Today, what we have used to make this wonderful soup was 5 bell peppers, 1 medium onion, 2 to 4 cloves of garlic, a quarter of a cup of cornstarch mixed with 1/3 to 1/2 cup of water, 1 to 2 tablespoons of olive oil. Basically, you're just using as much as needed to coat the vegetables while they're cooking. 8 ounces of shredded cheese, and 4 cups or 1 quart of stock. And that can be chicken stock, that can be vegetable stock, that can also be just plain water, though frankly the stock is going to make that soup much more rich. Oh, there we go. It's all made and ready to go. And it is a beautiful, beautiful pepper soup. Oh, this is a fantastic recipe, and everybody should get to enjoy this wonderful, delicious tasting soup. Oh yeah. You know, you get the corn chip in there with it. The flavor is just so good with that corn chip there. And it adds a little texture in the background. Fantastic. Give that a try. Crumble some of those in there. I enjoy it that way, and I'm pretty sure you will too. This recipe is absolutely fantastic. Not spicy at all, but definitely hearty, delicious, and something you're going to want some of. Thank you very much for watching Texas Cooking Today, guys. Thank you very much to my subscribers. I appreciate you so very much. If you haven't done so, please do that. And if you have questions, comments, if you have any requests, please drop it in the comment section. Believe it or not, if you'll take a look, I do answer those. And you'll be surprised how many of them, when it comes to requests, get fulfilled. Folks, thank you very much. Looking forward to hearing from you. And until then, enjoy your soup. Bye-bye. There it is, ladies and gentlemen, a Texas Cooking Today tutorial. Thank you very much for watching. If you would, please take a look at my channel. There's a lot of recipes there. If you would also please subscribe and click the bell. You'll know when the new videos come out. I post every Thursday. And folks, I would like to say thank you very much for watching Texas Cooking Today.